I'm a nationalist, and I'm unapologetic about it.
Go ahead.
I've associated with all kinds of people, and I've loved all kinds of people, and I've appreciated the help of all kinds of people. But first and foremost and above all things, I'm devoted to the ultimate liberation of my own people.
That's right.
Then that raises the question of peoplehood versus nationhood. Because you see, I believe that people of African descent are distinct people and an extension of African people. And one can believe in distinct peoplehood and not infer that what follows from that is nationhood talk.
But look, you wouldn't say that to an Israeli.
I agree with that, brother. No, we go ahead. We had good time.
Oh, we had good time?
But, no, I think that's very important.
Everybody in the world looks to a historical place of origin.
That's right. Well,
Why are we questioned when we look back?
That's right.
yes.
Blacks tell you how you look, but don't tell you who you are. Every people on this earth, when you dress them by their proper name, that name must reflect land, history, and culture.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You call them out of their name. There's no black land or black Blackville. That's a color designation, it's not a land designation.
That's right.
Why are we the only people deprived of a land designation? Italians could be in America for 5 generations and never go to Italy. Ask them who is. I say, I'm Italian. You don't say you say he's Italian American. He said, I'm Italian. German, same thing. I'm German. And yet we are shy of saying, I'm an Arab. I've been here quite a while, but I'm in exile, but I'm an Arab.
Go ahead.
See, I don't think nothing wrong with calling ourselves African. And one, see, Germany didn't have a Germany until 1870, didn't have Italy until 1867, so those folks who came from Sicily, for example, they got to Boston, they said they were Italian, they said they were Sicilians, because there's no such thing as Italy before that time. That these are shifting constructs.
These Sicilians who are mixed black.
Right, that's right, that's right.
That's what started the mafia. The lighter skinned ones discriminating against the darker skinned ones. And so they started an organization to protect themselves. We need to do the same.
Could I just one more question?
Oh, sure, but I just want to interject on your work while you sure. In Keeping Faith, I believe in the introduction, you talk about the spiritual trip home to Ethiopia with your wife, and you discuss your increasing interest in that African tradition, your home, your second home. Right. You also discuss your increasing distress at the thought of the possibilities of transforming the hedonistic culture, just a quote, and market-driven society of America, of this country, and your possible openness to one day shifting terrain to your home in Ethiopia. I remember reading Horace Keaton's Long Old Road, where he talks about being a correspondent at the UN, and a brother from Ghana was there, and he said, I feel sorry for you black Americans. He said, why? He said, because if we succeed in our struggle in Ghana, we'll have a nation. But if you succeed in your struggle, you will disappear. You become an American. With that in mind, my question to you, which I think is in the context of the discussion, what is your vision or dream for the ultimate goal and destinations of Africa away from home in the United States around the diaspora? And what are the lessons that you see as invaluable that we should have learned from being away from home for the long time? And then we can continue.
There's a whole lot on the table. Definitely. I want to begin though where Professor Clark began, namely being the son of a sharecropper. We're talking about material poverty, and one of the problems, major problems, that African peoples have had when we first arrived in this hemisphere is too much poverty, not enough self-love. The issue of the material poverty and material deprivation cannot be talked about unless you talk about the global distribution of wealth and resources, which takes us right back again to transnational cooperation. Now, the issue of self-love is something else. That's a psychic, spiritual issue that relates to being stolen from Africa. What we have done as a people of African descent has been to make and remake, invent and reinvent ourselves as a particular extension of African people in light of our sojourn here in this strange land. And so when I reflect back on my own identity, for example, when I go to Ethiopia every year and stay for 2.5 months, as much as I love Ethiopia, I still miss the black music that I don't hear there. Because Luther makes a difference. Coltrane makes a difference. Monk makes a difference. There's no monks in Addis Ababa. They got levels of genius expressed in Amharic and Oromo and Tigrian music, but it ain't Coltrane. Now what's going on here? These black people, or these African people, have done something quite unique. This is what I mean by distinct black peoplehood. I'm not talking about nation yet. We can argue about moving from peoplehood to nation. But the same sharecroppers who helped produce this towering figure, you think about that. Right? The same father who he talked about making $18 a week producing this giant. He had to make a contribution at the level of his spirit, and it was more than likely in a church, but we can ask Professor Clark whether that's the truth or not. It was in some communal bonding that took place that transmitted some kind of value to empower him to look at a communist tradition to bring critique to bear on white supremacy and so forth. That is African people in the New World movement. That's an extension of, it's not discontinuous years, because we're still dealing with the quest for self-love and self-regard and so forth and so on in light of the white supremacy coming at us, but we did do something new and novel, based on something old and ancient. And it's that dialectic between the two that I'm caught between. That's why I'm going back and forth from artist to America, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. Go ahead, Dr.
No, I have no self-love problem, and I think this present generation, most of the black youth and miseducated black who confused have a problem with self-love and self-identity, and they're caught up into what I call the NACP syndrome.
That's right. Be God, brother. Be God.
You got to get close to white people and soak up something through osmosis. You know, just sit next to them and you'll be better. Ride a bus across town, you'll be better. And just to be with them, be close to them, you're acknowledging the fact that they got something you haven't got. But they don't have anything you can't get. And a lot of these kids in Jim Crow schools excelled and went on to the best schools. But with the introduction of so-called integration of bag of worms,
that's right.
We began to dismantle our stores, little hotels in our communities.
That's right.
They wasn't towering hotels, but they were clean and generally run by a black woman we always called Big Mama. couple times through Kellerton and Callaway, who couldn't stay in the white hotel, stayed in those little black hotels. And these sisters could put a dish before you to make other people apologize for thinking they could cook. We didn't have to lose all of this for so-called integration. We missed the point. There used to be a black grocery store on every other corner. And you could get a little credit, ain't got no money, you know, he'll wait till Saturday. You get your money. He was part of the community. He belonged to your church. And so he know you ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. So the teacher, you see, the teacher was a dip in the community.